What's Gucci, everybody? Back with episode number 6 of the Unlimited Characters podcast, brought to you by your boy, Ant, aka Entertainment. Going to be going over just kind of an update how everything's going right now in the NBA playoffs. Things have been pretty exciting overall. A lot of surprises so far in the playoffs, a lot of probably not so surprising things, but overall, looks like we're in a brand new era of the NBA. LeBron's gone, Steph Curry's gone. KD's gone, at least gone from the playoffs. So we got everybody pretty much young guys, new. Jokic and the Nuggets are the only team left so far that, as this kind of group, has won a championship. Timberwolves still looking for their first ever championship. Knicks looking for like their first ever championship in pretty much my lifetime. Celtics haven't won one since Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Mavericks haven't won since Dirk Nowitzki. Thunder still never won a championship either. So a lot of teams out there super hungry, super thirsty to get their first win in. But let's do a recap on yesterday, man. So pretty surprising. I would say the Celtics came out, got absolutely whooped, got thrown in the dub club by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland won 118-94, and it just really wasn't close that much of the game. The game was pretty much wrapped up in the fourth quarter. Donovan Mitchell, he led the Cavs with 29 points. Was it 29? Let's see. What did he have? Had myself tweaking. Mitchell, yeah, he had 29 points yesterday. Mobley had 21 points and 10 rebounds, big double-double. With no Jared Allen, Mobley's been stepping up. He also had 2 blocks yesterday. Really, Celtics, kind of typical of what we've expected from this kind of version of the Celtics team. Celtics came out, they won game 1 by 25 at home. Then you come back game 2. A lot of people are kind of expecting them to sweep the Cavs. Then they get blown out by 24 yesterday, and just not making any threes at all. So that's one thing that I know a lot of people that kind of pick against or bet against the Celtics to win it all is they just simply rely on way too many three-point shots. So I know a lot of people always talk about the Warriors. Warriors shot a lot of threes. Steph Curry changed the game. They also had like the most layups, a lot of points in the paint. They were pretty good in the mid-range, especially when they had Kevin Durant and before Klay Thompson got completely washed how he was this playoff series. But Celtics just very inconsistent. I mean, Jason Tatum, yeah, he had 25 points. He bounced back, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Jaylen Brown had 19 points, but they both only shot 41% from the field. Brown was 7 of 17, and so was Tatum. So both very inefficient. Brown was actually minus 29 for the game in plus minus, and Tatum was a minus 22. So two of your guys that you're really expecting to carry the load, obviously not doing their part. And at least they're putting up the numbers, it looks like it, but not doing it efficiently or effectively the way the team needs. And Derek White, who came out in game 1 and was just balling, he only had 10 points, and he was actually at minus 27. So the whole starting lineup, Drew Holiday minus 21. And Drew Holiday, where you been at, buddy? He's been MIA, pretty much ghost mode. I think this is a little bit different of a role for him compared to what he was doing on the Bucks. On the Bucks, he had the ball a lot, bringing it up the court, especially in the playoffs late in the game. Giannis doesn't really handle the ball, especially in the fourth quarter. But now it seems like, Drew's kind of just standing around a lot more. The ball's in Derek White's hands a lot. It's in Tatum's hands and Brown's hands, of course. So it looks like Drew Holiday's still trying to adjust, man. So a lot of people just kind of wrote the Celtics right in to the NBA Finals, but doesn't look like that's happening so far. So largest lead yesterday got up to 29 for the Cavaliers. Mitchell had 5 3-pointers, pretty much going off, and he, like I mentioned, he finally got some help from the rest of the team. So LeVert had 21, Mobley had 21, Strus had 12. They even let Okoro get 12, bro. Like Niang 4, Marcus Morris 4. They let Tristan Thompson get a point, guys. Come on. Celtics, is this what you guys expect? This is winning attitude. So, watching that game, really, Celtics, I was looking up some stats. The Celtics are actually 14-14 at home since the start of the 21-22 playoffs. So they're doing what they usually do, man. They actually lose a lot more at home, it seems like, in the playoffs than they do on the road. And they were only 8 of 35. So I know I was talking a little bit about threes and how many 3-pointers they shoot. They only made 8 out of 35. So relying on that, if you're not making them at all, I don't understand why they don't get to the basket more, shoot mid-range. Jaylen Brown, Tatum, these guys are capable. mid-range shooters. And, every year it seems like the same story is kind of playing out with these Celtics. They do their thing in the regular season. They're number one. They're number two. They get to the playoffs. They kind of start stumbling around. And then Tatum came out with saying some stuff basically like, hey, we're not actually a super team. We only have 2 all-stars. I don't know why people try to do that. And it sounds like he lets everybody get into his head, man. So Tatum, let everybody get out your head, open up, go relax, buddy. But he usually comes out and balls. So we'll see what they do once they go to Cleveland. Obviously, probably a lot less pressure playing in Cleveland compared to Boston at home. But overall, it doesn't look good for the Celtics. Making it all the way, or maybe they'll make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Definitely, probably squeeze out the Cavs. Can they beat the Knicks or whoever comes out? Probably gonna be the Knicks, and definitely probably not gonna win the finals. But they're just soft, man. Celtics are soft. This version of the Celtics team, they got rid of Marcus Smart. I think a lot of people thought that was a mistake, but Drew Holiday, better player, probably better intangibles, but a little bit more of a quiet, reserved dude. So it doesn't really seem like the Celtics have like a vocal leader, somebody that's gonna step up and really say something to the team. Even their coach, dude, is like 35 years old, only a few years older than I am. So who knows what he's saying to these NBA kids that are making way more money than he is. So, all right. Next question would be, are the Celtics frauds? So that's a big question. I'm sure everybody's talking about, everybody's trying to figure out, are the Celtics frauds? And my answer is yes, man. This seems to happen to them every year, kind of the same old story. They come out, same thing happens. I'm going to say, the reason I think they're frauds is mostly because they've been here, they've done that, and over they seem to prove they just can't get over the hump. They let the Warriors squeak out a championship a couple years ago. Jason Tatum pretty much got outplayed by Andrew Wiggins, and we all know Andrew Wiggins is pretty much Mr. Inconsistent. Dude shows up sometimes, other times he doesn't show up. And this is the year, man. Celtics, you should be steamrolling through these playoffs. You shouldn't lose one game in the Eastern Conference. Like, the Heat are already out. Joel Embiid, he's already out. So, I mean, you really don't have a threat. Giannis was out. He didn't even play. Lillard got hurt. So you don't really have any of those threats. Yeah, you guys got rid. You got rid of the Heat and everything, all that stuff. But really, Jimmy Butler wasn't even there. So it's a tough one to say that they're frauds because they are a really good team. They're still stacked. It's only the second round. But realistically, they just don't seem to have what it takes. No, if Jimmy Butler was there, who knows what would have happened in the first round. So I do think that the Celtics are frauds when it comes down to it at the end of the day. Seems like they just don't have that dog in them. Jason Tatum is their best player, but doesn't seem to be their hungriest player. Jaylen Brown is one of their hungriest player, but still doesn't have a left hand. He went 0 for 6 yesterday from three-point land. So he's got the superstar mentality. He's obviously superstar, all-star, most highly paid player in the league, but doesn't have what it takes in the playoffs. It don't seem like it. So, man, if they don't win it this year, I think it's finally going to be a breaking up of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So that'll probably end up happening if they don't make it. Definitely going to happen if they don't make it out of the second round. So can only imagine what could have happened if they would have kept Ime Udoka, if he didn't do whatever he did with some executive's wife. Maybe things could have been different for the Celtics. Maybe they'd have a ring or two. But I think the Celtics are frauds. Let me know what you think. Are they frauds? I mean, technically, they can make it all the way to the NBA Finals. I think that's kind of like they better make it. If they don't make it, 100% frauds. If they make it and lose the finals, I still think fraudulent. You've had an easy season. You've been the best record in the NBA. You got probably the most deep team in the NBA. You got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Sam Hauser. Still got Porzingis that should be back by next round. I mean, they got a full team, Peyton Pritchard, Xavier Tillman that they got from the Grizzlies. So really, man, there's no reason to not make it out the East. It seems like it's got to be the players at some point. You know, some people always blaming the coaches. You got to look at the bench, guys. It's got to be those players. But they're going to be playing. The next game's going to be on Saturday. So Boston, Cleveland, Saturday night. I'm pretty shocked that that's the game they're putting on Saturday night on ABC, but I guess Boston's got the juice. But Boston going into Cleveland, we'll see what happens. Big game for Boston. I don't think it's a must-win, but going down 2-1, definitely going to shift some momentum. You know Donovan Mitchell's going to come out. He's probably going for at least a 40-burger, so keep your eyes open for that game. Recap on the next game from yesterday. my team that I picked to go to the finals. Big game yesterday. Mavericks at Thunder. Mavericks bounced back. They were down 1-0. Luka bounced back as well. He came out yesterday, ended up with 29 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists. Kyrie, relatively quiet night on the offensive side, only 9 points, but he did have 11 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. And if you really watch the game, Kyrie was all over the court yesterday. A lot of deflections, a couple of steals, like I mentioned, and he was actually playing some pretty good defense. A lot of that your turn, my turn stuff with Luka, but Luka was on fire yesterday. So you can't even complain on Kyrie's side. And then another player that just went off for the Mavericks yesterday, PJ Washington, out of Kentucky, 29 points, 11 rebounds. He was 7 of 11 from three-point land. He was on fire. Luka caught him with a couple perfect passes right in that shooter pocket. Nothing but net. Kyrie caught him on another one. And that's when, the Mavericks look really scary. When you got Luka that can penetrate, get to the basket, Kyrie that can do the same. You got those shooters all around them. When you got PJ Washington out there, it's hard to really collapse and bring anybody in. Also, Tim Hardaway Jr., man, shout out to him. He had a couple injuries he's been battling through this season. 17 points yesterday, and 2 of 4 from 3. He was clutch. He had a couple of big baskets, when the Thunder were trying to get it close, trying to cut into that lead in the fourth quarter. But shout out to Tim Hardaway Jr. That lineup they have out there when it's, either Lively or Gafford, Luka, Kyrie, PJ Washington. So, no, the lineup out there, let me rephrase that. The lineup out there with the Mavericks, we got Kyrie, Luka, Gafford, PJ Washington, and Tim Hardaway Jr. That's a tough 5 to beat with anybody in the NBA, man. When that 5 is going, they have everything on offense. They could do pretty well on defense. So Luka came out really hot first half. He had 16 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 made three-pointers, and that was all in the first quarter. So he came out right in the first quarter, right out the bat. Seems like he played the entire first, and it kind of makes sense. If he has that knee, sometimes once you start playing, you go sit on the bench, it stiffens up. It might get a little swollen up again. So he played almost the entire first quarter, came out, made a statement. He only ended up scoring 13 more points the rest of the game. But like I mentioned, PJ Washington was on fire. Tim Hardaway Jr. added 17. Josh Green even added 11 with a couple of three-pointers with 3 out of 5. Kyrie, like I said, had 9. And Derrick Jones Jr. with 9. Gafford with 13. So a little bit of something from everybody on the Mavericks yesterday. And they really had that full look of a team that could really compete. A team that kind of came into game one probably just trying to measure up against the Thunder and see how that went. But Dallas was up 68-62 at halftime. So, they were pretty much in control most of the game. So in the fourth and the third quarter, Thunder came back. They took the lead. And, things got a little shaky. When a game like that, when you're up the whole game, if you end up losing, that can definitely shift the entire series. So the Mavericks were able to, gut it out, get the win. Luka not really looking too much like himself out there on the defensive side. I know he gets a lot of flack. He's not a good defender at all. But he's been playing a lot better. But it looks like that knee's definitely bothering him. It's kind of like a zone type of defense for Luka where he's just in one spot. And then based off that, everybody else on the Mavs are switching. So they did get caught on a few backdoor layups like that where Luka kind of gets caught not moving real quick when the Thunder catch them out of position. And Luka doesn't really turn his head or move his hands too quick, and they had a couple easy layups on him. So that's definitely going to be something to look out for going into Dallas is, how are the Thunder going to try to isolate Luka or put him in some positions where he's got to play some defense because everybody just goes right past him every time. SGA, Jalen Williams, even like Cason Wallace did it a few times. Josh Giddey, anybody, pretty much everybody, Luka looking like a cone out there. They talked about his knee a little bit, said that he probably just needs some time for it to rest, but he don't have time, guys. This is the playoffs. So, Luka, get better, buddy, but we'll see. And like I mentioned, man, PJ Washington, absolutely on fire, y'all. He was reminding me a little bit of a few years ago, when they had like Finney Smith, everybody out there that were just smacking threes when they made that run with Dinwiddie to the Western Conference Finals. Jalen Brunson and PJ was just on fire. We all know the PJ meme where he's standing there looking at the Clippers. So he pulled it off last night. Definitely earned it. 11 of 18 from the entire field. Like I said, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. He was just out there, man. And when you're one of those players on the Mavericks, you're going to get plenty of open shots. Josh Green had some. He made 3 of 5. Dante Exum, another story, 0 for 2, and both of those were wide open, nobody within 10 feet. So I don't really expect to see him playing too much because it looks like the Thunder are kind of like, you know what? Let's collapse the defense. We're going to stop Kyrie. We'll stop Luka. Let's see what everybody else can do. And PJ made him pay. Tim Hardaway Jr. makes him pay. Josh Green made him pay. So Dallas looking like that threat, that championship pick that I made. And if Tim Hardaway Jr. can step up like this, like I said, that five-man lineup, which is what it's about in the NBA, what's about in the playoffs. You can change Gafford or Lively, whichever one you want in there. But then PJ, Tim Hardaway Jr., Luka, Kyrie, that's a solid 5 right there. And you still got Derrick Jones Jr. if you want to throw him in there too. So Dallas, man, they look like a scary team, y'all. Luka just get a little bit healthier. Kyrie only scores 9, and they still get a dub. Like Thunder, I know the Thunder are legit. SGA gets 30 almost every game. But who else is going to ride with him? I mean, he had 33 yesterday. Jalen Williams added 20, but it wasn't as easy as it was those other games. Game 1, Jalen Williams literally, he looked like anybody you can mention, any all-star. He looked like his own type of version out there. He was going off, but yesterday kind of came back to earth, 20 points, only 7 of 17 from the field. SGA, like I mentioned, doing his thing, 33 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, but nobody else got to 15. So Williams had 20 and SGA had 33, but then Dort had 8. Chet only had 11. Josh Giddey had 8. The other Jalen Williams had 8. Isaiah Joe had 7. So, they need somebody else in terms of scoring. So that's why I really don't think it's realistic to think the Thunder are going to make it out of this round, man. They got like one superstar and a couple of half all-stars that are young that have never been in these positions. They've never been in like a real 7-game series where the other coach is making adjustments and they're healthy. Yeah, they beat the Pelicans, but the Pelicans, they have all types of problems of their own. No Zion. Brandon Ingram's here or there. CJ McCollum was hurt all season. So the Thunder, I think this is kind of their first test, first kind of wake-up call. And Jason Kidd, he's also an NBA champion. He's played in, I think, at least 3 championships, lost a couple of them with the Nets back in the day, won one with the Mavericks. So Jason Kidd, a smart, cerebral type of point guard player that I think makes some good adjustments, and he's got a good coaching staff. So I think the Thunder probably cooked. I'm going to say that Mavericks probably win this one in 6 now. I think Dallas goes back home, wins the next 2. Thunder probably go back to their place, sneak one, and then Dallas goes back home, wins it from there. So I'm going with Dallas in 6. Thunder just need, I think, one more year, man. This Chet Holmgren's rookie year, the only rookie to ever like come in the playoffs and do his whole thing like that is Magic Johnson. So I don't expect Chet Holmgren to be Magic Johnson. He's also, at this point got to be wearing down a little bit. He didn't play all of last year. It's his first full NBA season, playoff run. He's not that big compared to, a Gafford's bodying him up. Lively and Chet probably a little more comparable because they're both young. I think Lively's probably a little bit younger, but he's actually got a bigger frame than Chet Holmgren. So I think Chet definitely going to be an all-star, definitely a dog out there, but we'll see what happens. He's got another season to go, but I'm going with the Mavericks. And the kind of question I do have, though, about that whole series is how bad is Luka's knee injury? So if you're watching the game, you probably saw that he's got a little bit of blood coming out of his knee. It reminded me of like the Kurt Schilling Boston Red Sox game where Kurt was pitching and just going off up there, and there's just blood coming out of his ankle. Luka had a little bit of blood coming out of his knee. So they're definitely firing that thing up with all types of painkillers, everything to get him out there. So hopefully he gets better, man, because realistically, they got what it takes to make the finals, but I don't think, or even make it, but it's going to be hard in the West to get past the Timberwolves or the Nuggets if they could make it back if Luka's not 100%. Because all they really do is have him and Kyrie to create. They don't really have anybody else that's going to do that. So if Luka's limited, and especially if he's limited on defense, because he's already limited just by itself. So not being able to play as good on offense because of your knee, and then you're not good at defense. So then you're kind of just nullifying yourself as a player. So his knee injury looks pretty bad offensively, able to still do it. And I think sometimes it's probably a bad thing that he's hurt because it's like an excuse for him to not play as well on defense. I don't even want to say that currently my favorite NBA player, but His knee injury looks pretty bad. I'm still taking Mavericks in 6, though, and I'm still taking the Mavericks to go to the finals. Let's go. Let's go, Dallas. Shout out. All right, all right. Let's move on, man. How's everybody doing? How's the world out there? Still doing good? Okay. Moving on to the next topic, y'all. Let's do kind of like a quick preview / where do we stand in these other 2 series. So today's Friday. So tonight, these are going to be the games tipping off. 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. I'm in Chicago, so we're going to go Central. I know a lot of people are Eastern, but Central, Midwest, stand up. Indiana, not Indiana. So tonight, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, New York Knicks coming to the Midwest. They're going to Indiana. They're up 2-0 on the Pacers right now. Jalen Brunson was actually sat out the entire second quarter the other night, and Knicks are still up 2-0. So what is going on over here? I put Jalen Brunson. I don't know how to write. But Jalen Brunson had 43 in game 1. Like I mentioned, game 2, he had 29. That sounded horrible. Paraphrase. Let me start over there, guys. So Knicks are up 2-0. Jaylen Brown had 43 points in game 1. He had 29 points in game 2, and that's after sitting out the entire second quarter. So he had a leg injury, came out of the game, ended up coming back, carried the team, still was able to ball out there. And I think a little bit obviously has to come with the fact that the Pacers are probably absolute trash on defense. They're just bad, man. They can't stay in front of everybody. They kind of focus a lot more on the offensive side of the ball. So they kind of let some of those buckets go, thinking like, yo, we're going to go get it back on the other side. And Halliburton, he came out strong in the first half, but he's just been super inconsistent. He'll start off one quarter good, one quarter bad. He hurt his hamstring back in January during this season and just kind of like hasn't been the same since then. I'm sure many of you guys remember Indiana made it to the in-season tournament final against the Lakers. They ended up losing, but ever since then, he messed up his hamstring. They just kind of haven't looked the same. They got a really great offense, and that stuff works like in the regular season. But once you get to the playoffs, guys, we all know that, defense kind of matters. You got to get stops. So, yeah, they might score a lot of points, but when it gets to the end of the game, if you still can't get a stop, it really doesn't matter. So he's also was listed, Halliburton, I didn't even know this, but Halliburton was listed as questionable for game 2 with a back injury. So that's one thing, too. If you ever hurt like something on your legs, that always kind of starts connecting to something else. So it looks like, Pacers, they need Halliburton to be going crazy, and he's not. Definitely has not been doing that against the Knicks. So, the Knicks, definitely a very formidable team. It's a little bit surprising every time I still see like Dante DiVincenzo or Josh Hart still hit a shot, but they got what it takes, man. If you've watched some of the other pods I've put up, I talked about it. The Bulls, we had Tom Thibodeau before. This team reminds me a lot of our old Bulls teams. You had Derrick Rose, Luol Deng, Carlos Boozer, Joakim Noah, at one point Bogans, at another point Kyle Korver. So, this team is very similar where we got that point guard. That's our all-star. That's our leader. And then everybody else, just a bunch of dogs, a bunch of players that are going to do the right thing, play a bunch of minutes, play the right defense. So I've seen the blueprint before. We've seen this formula in Chicago. And, it's fun seeing it with the Knicks. I think their ceiling's a little bit more limited because they don't have somebody like a Noah, even like a Boozer. Randall's currently out for them. And Brunson obviously hurt and definitely not as explosive or as MVP worthy like a D Rose. But we've seen this story before. I think the Knicks can definitely at least make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think they're going to make it out of this round. We'll see how quick it is. I think I'll say Knicks in 5 just because they got that dog in them. They're just out there to outwork you, out-rebound you, out-hustle you, do everything it takes to win. They got Josh Hart that's out there leading by example, and this dude is just going off, like doubling how many points he had. You could take a look. Let's see. Josh Hart, regular season stats. So Josh Hart in the regular season, he averaged, that's this. They're showing me his career. Like, damn, that's bogus. This year, he averaged 9 points, 8 rebounds during the regular season. During the playoffs, let's see. I mean, they don't have the stats, and I can't do the. Oh wait, here we go. Yeah, so this season, I mean, he's doubled everything. So Josh Hart just been a difference maker. In the regular season, he averaged 9 points. Postseason, 18 points. Regular season, 8 rebounds. Postseason, 12 rebounds. Regular season, 4 assists. Postseason, 5 assists. So he's, I don't know where he is, where he came out of, but Josh Hart just stepped up. He went from being like a regular role player to damn near Jimmy Butler, 3.5, not the regular version, maybe a little bit outdated. He's just kind of out of nowhere, bro. I mean, 70% from free throw. He went from a 31% three-point shooter to 43%. So that's a crazy change. I know now there's a little bit more opportunity, I guess, because Randall's not there. They're definitely playing some Villanova Wildcat type of basketball. But, I mean, Josh Hart just stepping up. 19 points in game 2, 24 points in game 1. He had 16 points also in game 1 against the Sixers, 18 in game 6. So he's been on one. And just like I mentioned, he's doubled up his points per game, going from 9 points to 18, assists up to 5 from 4, rebounds more than 4, from 8.3 rebounds a game to 12.8. And his career averages are only 9 points too. So he's just literally stepped up into another atmosphere. And if you watch the games, yeah, he's making a lot more threes because he's open. Seems like that's kind of on purpose, which who knows if they'll keep doing that. But a lot of it too is just like pure hustle, man. He's just crashing into the boards. Go on Twitter, look up Josh Hart rebounding, and there's some funny ass like GIFs and videos of what he'll do to get a rebound, and just funny videos, people jumping and going crazy like that. So I remember back at Villanova, Josh Hart was actually like considered the better player, better NBA prospect. So it's kind of cool to see that, you know, he, I guess, obviously knows Brunson's got a better NBA game. Now they've linked back up on the same team. Dante DiVincenzo came and joined them. So it's been interesting watching that Villanova connection. But like I mentioned, we kind of seen this story play out before. You're a Bulls fan. You know, you've seen Tibbs do this with some of our Bulls teams. Like, we had no reason winning certain games, making it to the playoffs, and Tibbs kind of helps you out with that. But the downside of Tibbs is the minutes, guys. So let's see. Where'd it go? Josh Hart is averaging in the last 10 games 38 minutes a game. And in the postseason, without just in all these games combined now, he's averaging 46.8 minutes a game. There's only 48 minutes in an entire NBA game, and Josh Hart is playing like 98.9% of those minutes. And OG Anunoby, he's now out for game 3. So that's another thing, man. He's playing a ton of minutes. And without him, that's a big piece right there. A big piece on defense, and big piece on offense as well. He's been clutch, carrying a lot on the offensive side, doing a lot of the dirty work. And he's going to be out tonight. So, you know, Knicks are just down another player. First, Randall goes out. Now you got OG out. Even Brunson sat out the entire second quarter. He's been nicked up. So it looks like it's a hamstring injury. I'm taking a look real quick. Yeah, so it's a hamstring injury. So who knows how long that could sit out for, man. Hamstring messes you up. Like I mentioned, that's kind of what ties into the other thing, like Halliburton. You mess up your hamstring, you start kind of overcompensating using another part of your body, and now you mess up your back. So it gets hard in the playoffs. Looks like he's going to be sitting out at least game 3. I don't know when the next game is. Let's see. So they play tonight. I'm assuming Sunday. Yeah, then they play again Sunday. So maybe they're thinking like, yo, he sits out 4 or 5 days. We'll play him on Sunday. So they're up 2-0 as well. So I can kind of see that. OG, maybe it's not as bad as it seems. Probably just being a better safe than sorry. But I guess the question after going through that little recap on the Pacers is, are the Knicks a legit threat to come out of the Eastern Conference? And based on how things look right now, I got to go with yeah. And it's mostly going to be based on like what's going on with everything on the outside of the Knicks. Obviously, they're doing their thing. But Celtics always look vulnerable. They look soft. I mean, they're losing to the Cavs by 24 points at home. I don't know how that happens. And this Knicks team does remind me a lot of kind of the Miami Heat teams that have been making those runs the last few years. Jalen Brunson's kind of doing the Jimmy Butler thing where, you know, he's there. The leader can hit those tough shots in the clutch. And they're just getting everybody to play the perfect role. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And that kind of messes with the Celtics a lot, especially when they rely so much on shooting threes. Um, so I think, yeah, I mean, the Knicks can come out of the Eastern Conference. So that's even if the Celtics make it. If the Cavs make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I'll definitely take the Knicks over them. I feel like the Cavs are a worse version of like the Celtics when it comes to just folding and being a little soft. So, I mean, I think, yeah, man, the Knicks definitely have a legitimate chance to come out of the East. A lot of that's obviously going to depend on Brunson. Can he get healthy? And now with OG Anunoby, can he even come back and play? So I do think the Knicks can make it out of the East. Now that whole nother story is, can they actually win the NBA Finals? I'm going to go with hell no. But I definitely think the Knicks can make it out of the East. And that's kind of be more predicated on how everything's kind of laid itself out in the East right now. Embiid's already been eliminated by them. Giannis wasn't even able to play in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler got hurt in the playoffs. So things are kind of lining up. It could be kind of wild. You know, Knicks haven't been in the finals since 1999. That means they haven't touched the finals this millennium. And they haven't won one in like damn near 60 years. So shout out to New York, man. Y'all, looks like this could be a year to make it. It's got to hope Brunson can stay healthy. And, you know, Celtics, they're always falling off. So you never know, boys. You never know. Shout out to New York, though, man. And shout out to Thibs. It would be cool to see Thibs get to a final just because, you know, it's probably going to be his last chance. Running every player into the dirt. Everybody's hurt on the Knicks, man. Reminds me a lot of the Bulls. Noah would get hurt. Boozer was always hurt. Rose was always hurt. And I think we're seeing the common denominator, and that is Tom Thibodeau. But shout out to Tibbs, man. He's still a dog. All right, y'all. And the big, big series that everybody's talking about, the most surprising and most compelling series right now, Minnesota Timberwolves. They're up 2-0 against the defending champion, Denver Nuggets. Minnesota went into Denver first 2 games, just snatched them right away from the Nuggets, damn near just punking out the Nuggets out there. Looks like they're just too big, man. Pause, but Gobert, Cat, Nas Reed, you got Alexander, you got Jaden McDaniels. I mean, you got everybody, not McDaniels, Jaden Daniels. So, you know, it's just a tough matchup for the Nuggets, but where are we at, though? Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Game recap from the other night. Beat the brakes off them, but where's the box score? I was right. It is McDaniels. So, I mean, like I said, Minnesota up 2-0, just came out and punked the Nuggets at home. They look like they're just too big out there, just too strong, too fast, too athletic. They got Jaden McDaniels picking up Murray pretty much full court. Then they're bringing in Nikhil Alexander Walker doing the same thing. They got Ann Edwards, Mike Conley. Then down low, you got Karl Anthony Towns. They got Nas Reed. Gobert didn't even play in game 2. He's coming back for game 3. It looks like, you know, based off those 2 games, Minnesota might be way too much to handle this year for the Nuggets. I think it's kind of exposing the whole fact that the Nuggets don't have another guard that can really handle the ball and create a shot. Murray is also kind of hurt, and Reggie Jackson probably deserves to get some more minutes. He's kind of able to do a little bit of that. But, you know, there are other players, KCP, MPJ or Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. These guys aren't really like playmakers. Handle the ball. Let's create a play. So once you get to the fourth quarter, if you're not the Lakers and like old as hell and have only Austin Reeves and weak ass D'Angelo Russell to play defense, if you have a formidable defense, it's kind of simple if you think of, not simple, but like just get the ball, double Murray, blitz at Jokic, and then they have Gobert that's kind of playing safety down low where he's able to get back to Gordon, where Aaron Gordon was killing the Lakers in that, you know, not even in the low post, just from that dunker spot. He's always there for a lob. He's there for a backdoor cut. But that's because LeBron gets caught snoozing. Let's be honest. LeBron, you're great, but he gets caught snoozing all the time. This Timberwolves team, they're locked in, man. Rudy Gobert just won his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award. So go check out some highlights from game 1, how he was able to kind of get back and forth between, you know, helping up and then getting back to stop Aaron Gordon at the rim. So looks like it's just a really bad matchup, man. That's what I would say. It's just, I mean, suffocating defense. Minnesota 6-0 so far in the playoffs. And it's not like, you know, they didn't play the Pelicans like the Thunder did. No disrespect to New Orleans, but I mean, they swept the Suns with Kevin Durant, Booker, Beal, where a lot of people thought like, yo, you know, Durant or Booker, they'll at least get you a game. Nope, they got 0 games, and right now Nuggets can't even get a game at home. So it's shocking right now. I mean, last game, Cat had 27 points, and Edwards had 27 points. Reed had 14. Nikhil Alexander Walker had 14. I mean, they had the whole bench play besides TJ Warren. So, when the whole bench plays like that, an ass whooping was laid out on the court. So tough game for the Nuggets. They don't even look like themselves out there. Last game 2, Jokic only had 16 points. So I'm sure many of you guys are aware by now, Jokic just won an MVP again. He only had 16 points last game. So we're used to seeing that man get whatever he wants out there on the court against Anthony Davis, killing him. But it looks like when you actually got a little bit of size and a little bit of help on defense that you can stop him. I mean, Aaron Gordon had 20. That seems to kind of be by design. Like, yo, you go ahead, get your little, like, dunks down low. He actually made 3 of 5 from 3. Murray only had 8 points. So I don't even know how that happens. Reggie Jackson only had 3 points, and that was on 10 minutes. So I think Reggie Jackson needs to get more time. Like, Bulls fans, we remember Justin Holiday, right? You guys remember Justin Holiday? He got 21 minutes of playing time ahead of Christian Braun, ahead of Reggie Jackson. That shit makes no sense to me, man. Justin Holiday's like one of those players that me and my friends will talk about this. I'll be like, yo, if you got this certain player on your team, you're probably not going to win. To me, that's Justin Holiday. Solid NBA player, but he just seems to never make shots when it matters. Seems to do the things that you shouldn't do when you shouldn't do them. I don't know how he's getting more playing time than Christian Braun, Reggie Jackson. That kind of tweaks me out. So Michael Malone, put Justin Holiday's ass on the bench. Bring in Christian Braun. A lot more effective. In 10 minutes, he was a +2. Justin Holiday a -3 in 21 minutes. So I don't even know how those matter, but I would say get Justin Holiday off the court. But big game tonight, man. They got go down 3-0. I don't know. But before we get to that question, the real question I have, everybody's been talking about it. Should Jamal Murray have been suspended? If you haven't seen the videos already, go on Twitter, go on Google, go on whatever you got. Look up Jamal Murray, game 2. First, he tried throwing a towel on the court. It kind of fluttered. If you try throwing a towel, that thing can't carry that far. Then he grabbed a heat pack, and he throws that, almost hits Mark Davis, goes out on the field, and not on the field. The heat pack goes out on the court, close to Karl Anthony Towns, and then, Mark Davis kind of looks back. They get it off the court. Nothing happens. He doesn't get a technical foul. Still manages to stay in there. NBA, everybody's asking, should Jamal Murray get suspended? Half of everyone's saying yes. Everyone's saying no. A lot of people are talking about how he's never really done anything before, so don't use it against him. Man, if you ask me, I say hell yeah, he should have been suspended, man. They're not even allowed to get up off the bench. So if we remember back in the day, the Suns, the Spurs, Amari Stoudemire, that whole thing happened. They came on the bench. They suspended him. The Suns, who were favored and probably should have won, ended up losing to the Spurs. And they got suspended just for going on the court to protect teammates, not even doing anything. So why would you not get suspended for throwing stuff on the court? So let's think about it that way. So should Jamal Murray have been suspended? Yes, guys, come on. You get suspended for walking on the court, but you don't get suspended for throwing something on the court. Seems like kind of like a gray area, and I don't understand why that would make any sense from the NBA's perspective. They ended up fining him $100,000, which I think I read somewhere is like half of a game check for him. So that doesn't even matter for him. He didn't even get kicked out of the game. No, nothing. Seems like, it just really shows the difference between Adam Silver and David Stern. David Stern lived up to his last name. Very fucking Stern. Did what he had to do. Adam Silver, players kind of type of guy, commissioner that seems to let them get away with it. And I get it. You got to look at every situation differently. But come on, man. You can't let them throw stuff on the court like that. Just to me, kind of sets a bad precedent, and not like, oh, everybody should get suspended. But if you get suspended for things like walking on the court, why would you not get suspended for throwing things on the court? And not once, but twice. And then it was, not once, but twice. And I know a lot of the different speculation I was hearing are people like the refs wanted them out there. They wanted to see them keep getting their ass kicked, which is pretty funny. But then it's also like, why are the refs thinking like everything's always kind of like up to how they're feeling that day? So I definitely think that Jamal Murray should have been suspended. If you can't go on the court during like an altercation or to go grab somebody, then why would you be able to throw stuff on the court to try to like stir up an altercation? And obviously somebody could have got hurt. Rudy Gobert was out. So imagine if like Karl Anthony Towns goes out there, steps on something, gets hurt, that could change the entire series. So it does make you wonder if the Nuggets maybe had won that game and it was 1-1, they probably would have suspended him. But because they're down 2-0, they want to make it interesting, which I get it. You don't want to change the whole series based on that. So it seems like maybe because of that, they let Murray stick around and play the next game. But I definitely think he should have been suspended. And like I said, this really shows those differences between Adam Silver and David Stern and just how different the NBA has gotten so far. But after that, you know, he's going to be playing. So that's what it is. It is what it is. Jamal Murray is going to be playing in game 3. So we're going to definitely get ourselves one hell of a game tonight. It's 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Denver going into Minnesota. So who wins game 3? That's the next question. Who wins game 3? Is it Denver? Is it Minnesota? Like I mentioned earlier, Rudy Gobert, he's set to come back after the birth of his son. He just came off of winning his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award, which is even harder to imagine that Minnesota had that dominating defensive performance and Rudy Gobert didn't even play. Denver, defending champions, have this year's MVP. Jokic just won it. Can you imagine if they get swept now? It's going to definitely give some of that type of, you know, if you hear about MVPs losing, it reminds you of that Dirk Nowitzki losing to the We Believe Warriors. So a lot of people think Jokic only won the MVP because last year everybody's like, yo, he's not going to win it this time. Then he ends up winning the final. So he comes back this year. They're doing Raw. He wins. If he gets swept or they lose this round, I feel like this is probably his final MVP, man. I know the analytics community loves him, but how are you going to keep giving it to him? I think if he gets swept, he'd be like the only MVP to ever get swept like 2 times. I'm going to have to do some recon on that, but I heard it the other day. So, you know, Reggie Jackson even came out and said that, you know, everybody on the Timberwolves was mad, and I'm totally paraphrasing this, but he said that they pretty much got punked by the Timberwolves. So it sounds like the Nuggets definitely know they got to come out with a lot more edge in game 3. But right now, Minnesota is 6-0 in the playoffs, and Edwards averaging 32.3 points per game, and Karl Anthony Towns is averaging 20 points, 9 rebounds. So it's going to be another fight. You know, Minnesota is going to be absolutely rocking. It's going to be crazy. They haven't had a big game like this pretty much ever, probably. I mean, they made it to the Western Conference Finals back when they had Kevin Garnett, but that was like 20 years ago. So half the fans probably don't even remember that one anymore. But Minnesota, man, can they go up 3-0? Who wins game 3? I'm going with the Nuggets, y'all. Got to go with the heart of the champion. I know Jokic played like crap last game, didn't even get 20 points. I think he's going to come out today with like a 35-point triple-double. I think Murray's going to come out aggressive. I think Reggie Jackson is going to play a lot more. Hopefully Christian Braun plays. Justin Holiday, put him on the bench. But I think Nuggets come out. They win game 3. I still think the Timberwolves are going to win the series, but I think the Nuggets come out and get game 3 and just kind of get some respect back a little bit. But I still have Minnesota winning this one. It's going to be a big banger of a game tonight. Jokic, you know he's going to come out thirsty. Rudy Gobert's coming back. So it's going to be really, 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 really interesting to see kind of what changes Mike Malone can make and what he does to adjust. Because a lot of people don't even know that. Let me take a look here. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. So there's a few different connections between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. So Chris Finch, who's the current head coach of the Timberwolves, he used to be an assistant coach under Mike Malone on the Denver Nuggets. And then the other connection would be their general manager. So Timberwolves GM. So 2 connections. Chris Finch, he used to be an assistant coach on the Nuggets. He helped coach Jokic. And then Tim Connolly, who actually helped build up the majority of Denver's roster that helped win the championship. He's now the president of the Timberwolves. So the coach used to help coach the Nuggets, and the president of the Timberwolves used to also help build the roster on the Nuggets. So you got those connections that it's pretty wild to see that, these two guys come from somewhere that wins. How surprising they know to go win somewhere else. So that's what always is confusing about sports, NBA, when they need a new coach, Bulls, and they go out and get somebody that doesn't even come from somewhere of like a winning program. So Nuggets, Timberwolves tonight. I'm going to have to go with the Nuggets. So for tonight's games, do a quick little pick 'em for them. So you got the Knicks going into Indiana. I think Indiana probably gets this win today. Indiana is going to have a crowd that's going to be going crazy. I think Halliburton kind of steps up. And a lot of Indiana's players that are in right now are guys that probably wouldn't be playing due to different injuries. So I think a lot of them are going to play a lot better at home like role players usually do. So I'll take Indiana to get the win tonight against the Knicks. And then in the big matchup tonight, Minnesota hosting the Denver Nuggets. I'm going to go with Denver going into Minnesota, getting the win. I'm expecting a big game out of Nikola Jokic. I think he has like a 35-point triple-double. I think Denver gets that win, but I still think they're going to lose the series. So big ups. We're going to see what happens this weekend. A lot's going to change. We're pretty much witnessing like the next era of the NBA, like I mentioned, y'all. If any team besides Denver wins, it's going to be the first time any of these superstars leading these new teams, like the Knicks, like Jalen Brunson, Luka on the Mavs, and Edwards on the Timberwolves, SGA on the Thunder, even if it's Tatum on the Celtics or like a Donovan Mitchell on the Cavs. So this year we're kind of probably looking at a new NBA champion, and I think it'll be if somebody else wins. Let's see. Whoa. Yeah, so we haven't had back-to-back champs now since 2017, 2018. So 2019 Raptors won, 2020 Lakers, 21 the Bucks, 22 the Warriors, 23 the Nuggets. So it'll be the sixth year. We could have six different champion, or actually different. If you go back to 2018, we'd have, one, two, three, seven different champs. So might have a new champion this year. Doesn't look like Denver's going to make it out of the second round. So looks like we might have somebody new out there. So that's always exciting for the NBA. And Edwards only like 22 years old. So that'd be crazy. Probably like the youngest guy to really lead his team and this type of team. Because, Magic Johnson won, but he had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who's considered to be the best player of all time by many basketball people. And then even Larry Bird, they had a whole bunch of all-stars on their team. A different type of vibe. So, and Edwards might get his. Luka, Kyrie's won before, but it's kind of Luka's team. And then the Thunder, I think their average age is under 25 right now. So they'd be the youngest team to ever win an NBA final. So shout out to the NBA right now. It's been a great playoffs. I know NHL is also going on and crazy. Baseball's going on right now. I didn't get a chance to talk about my Cubbies back there, but shout out to the Cubs on a little bit of a rough patch right now, like the entire NL Central, but we'll bounce back, y'all. But thanks for stopping by, checking out Unlimited Characters, episode 6. Shout out, everybody. Have a good weekend. Watch the NBA. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, follow. Ya dig.